If you're caring for someone with dementia, you're on a journey that is just filled with incredible challenges. And right there with you, almost all the time, is this quiet, nagging companion, guilt. It's a feeling pretty much every caregiver has, but it really doesn't have to run the show. So in this explainer, we're going to look at where that guilt comes from, and, more importantly, how to quiet that nagging voice so you can focus on what really matters.
Does that sound familiar? It's that voice, right? After a really long day, it just whispers in your ear that you're not doing enough, or you're just not doing it right. This, right here, is the absolute hallmark of caregiver guilt.
Okay, the first thing you absolutely need to know is this. If you feel this way, you are so not alone. These feelings are completely 100% normal. Our goal here is to help you understand that critical inner voice and, learn how to manage it.
So where does all this even come from? Well, guilt is a really complex and powerful emotion. It can just drain your energy, it can totally ramp up your stress, but a lot of the time, it's actually coming from a hidden source, a whole set of misconceptions and, frankly, unrealistic expectations that no human could possibly live up to. So, let's do this. Let's unpack 6 of the most common myths that really fuel these feelings. Because by seeing them for what they are, which is just myths, we can start to take away their power. Oh, this is a big one. It's that feeling of inadequacy, It just creeps in when you're maybe scrolling online or talking to a friend, and you start comparing your own very real, very messy struggles to what looks like someone else's perfect success story.
And that's really the heart of the problem, isn't it? You're comparing your full 24/7 reality, the good, the bad, the totally exhausting, to this tiny, curated little snapshot of someone else's life. The truth is, every single caregiver is struggling in their own way. You're just not seeing the rest of the picture.
So how do you reframe this? Well, instead of chasing this impossible ideal, let's focus on what's real and achievable. Set one small goal for the day. Ask for help, because nobody, and I mean nobody, can do this alone. And most important of all, just let go of the idea of the perfect caregiver. It doesn't exist. There is only you doing the absolute best you can in a really, really tough situation.
This is the guilt that comes from hindsight. Looking back and thinking, I should have seen the signs earlier. Or getting mad at yourself for being irritated by some strange behavior before you even knew a medical condition was the cause. Let's just all agree to be a little more gentle with our past selves. It's so easy to look back with the knowledge we have now and judge our actions. But you couldn't have known then. It was totally natural to be confused or even annoyed when you didn't have the full picture. You've got to forgive yourself for not being psychic. Okay, but what about the guilt that isn't about the past, but about what's happening right now? This next myth, it touches on one of the most painful and secret struggles, having negative thoughts about the very person you're dedicating your life to caring for. Just look at this list for a second, wanting to just walk out the door, feeling embarrassed by their behavior in public, feeling like you're only doing this out of obligation, even wishing it were all over. These thoughts can feel horrifying to even admit to yourself, but I want you to see them right here, written down, because they are profoundly normal. Everyone has had them. Let that sink in for a second. The key is not to try and suppress these thoughts or feel ashamed about them. The best thing you can do is just accept that you're having them. And then, if you can, talk about them with someone you trust or even just write them down in a private journal. Just acknowledging them robs them of so much of their power.
All right, now that we've looked at some of those really tough feelings, let's shift our focus a bit. Let's talk about the compassionate truth and some real practical strategies for self-forgiveness.
Now this myth, this is the one that really isolates you. It's that mistaken belief that you are somehow uniquely flawed because you feel resentful or exhausted or just plain tired of it all. It makes you feel so utterly alone in your struggle. But the truth is, you couldn't be less alone. Seriously, the most powerful antidote to this feeling is connection. Talking to other people who are right there in the trenches with you, in a support group, whether it's in person or online, will make you realize so fast that your feelings are the rule, not the exception. Look, every single caregiver has, at some point, snapped. You're pushed to your absolute limit, you're dealing with incredibly challenging behaviors, and your patience just runs out. It happens. And the guilt that follows, wow, it can be overwhelming. So instead of just sitting in that guilt, let's make a plan for the anger. It starts with self-awareness. Just start to notice the signs that you're reaching your limit. When you feel it coming, your first move is to step away, even for just 60 seconds. Then find a healthy way to release that pressure. And finally, get strategic. If you know that dinner time is always a trigger, what's one small thing you can do beforehand to kind of defuse that tension?
And this brings us to our final and maybe most important section. This is all about giving yourself permission. Permission to be human, to have needs, and to finally understand why taking care of yourself is the least selfish thing you can possibly do.
The guilt of self-care. It's that feeling that you shouldn't want to break, that if the person you're caring for can't enjoy life anymore, then you shouldn't either. That is such a heavy and totally unfair burden to carry.
This right here is where we need a critical shift in perspective. A break isn't a luxury. It is not something to feel guilty about. It is an absolute necessity for your survival in this role. You're not a machine. You're a human being who needs to recharge.
And the benefits are so clear. Taking time for yourself is what allows you to sustain this marathon of caregiving. It protects your own health, and here's the crucial point. When you feel refreshed and more positive, your ability to provide good care actually improves. It's a win-win.
So let's just end on that powerful truth. Taking care of yourself is not selfish. It is not an indulgence. It is a necessary, vital part of being a compassionate and effective caregiver. Period.
So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. And look, it doesn't have to be some big gesture. What is one small, simple way you can show yourself the same compassion you show your loved one, starting today?